When was our longest? Was it Jordan's interview? Because I felt like that went long.
Hayley is tired of hearing me talk. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Alien Familiar RPG podcast. I am Clayton.
I'm Beth.
Lieutenant Jackson. Oh, Jesus. Kyle Perkins.
You did remember your name. Good job.
Hi, I'm Hayley.
I'm Lara.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Chris.
I'm Nina.
Your boy KD.
I'm Lanina.
Jordan. And before we get started, I just want to remind our listeners that you can find show notes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/alienfamiliar, and I am personally on Discord as DM Scorpio, number 0660, and I have created a channel specifically for Alien Familiar Media, so please join us. As we gave our introductions, you may have heard a couple of voices that you've never heard before. These are some friends that we've had in to the area for a special retreat where we all rented a lodge in a local state park, or is it a national park?
Whatever.
It's a local park, and we for Wednesday evening and all day Thursday,
Approximately 36 hours.
we played an Apocalyptia game. I game narrated, and everybody else here was players, and it was quite an experience, and it is something that we're going to talk about here. What it was like having practically 2 days devoted just to role-playing games with no other outside distractions besides whenever we took breaks.
If there's one thing I don't want this podcast to devolve into, I don't want to become some sort of like fucking fuckfest about our memories for the weekend. You bunch of daffy fuckers have lots of shit to say. I want it to be completely about the essence, the logistics of being together for 36 hours and gaming.
Did I stroke out there for a second?
No, he's
I've always had this accent.
Oh.
This one right here. I don't need speech therapy. Really though. No, keep memories to a minimum in my personal opinion here. I want to talk about things our listeners want to hear about, but we can talk about our memories later.
Specific memories, but that just might be you.
No, I'm just trying to avoid our listeners hearing about certain things, Lanina.
Then tell me on the podcast, Kyle. If any of our listeners do want to hear these certain things that are being alluded to, all of this will be available on our actual play feed for you, our listeners, to listen to and enjoy and hopefully learn a little bit about the role-playing game Apocalyptia.
Yay! Boop, boop.
So, I just want to say that as game narrator, this was fucking exhausting.
Yes.
We're all terrible.
Yeah, I cannot remember the last time I was more fatigued. It was really taxing on me to run the game for you guys. And in my style of game mastering, I don't really interact, like, as much as possible. I sit back and let you guys determine what was going to happen, the flow of the game, and it still absolutely exhausted me. I could not get to sleep last night fast enough.
I couldn't sleep last night. Kept going over my failures.
They were many.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the overall experience. I personally love RPGs possibly too much, so the idea that I could go to a cabin with all my friends and do nothing but RPGs sounded too good to be true, and I was correct. I really enjoyed the majority of it, but towards the end, everybody's fatigue started to wear out, and it kind of like caught on like a not a virus, but like I felt like everybody was catching each other's fatigue. And
Or we were all just fatigued.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I stayed up until like 2 a.m.
Haley, you were falling asleep until I brought you a cup of tea.
But that's true. I needed a 5-second nap, and then I was up. I enjoyed the majority of this, and the idea that an RPG retreat could happen. I just feel like the fatigue got the best of us at the end.
Yeah, especially at the end. I wanted to end at midnight, and we did end up going a little bit long. I really truncated the ending because it was getting late. I was mentally done. I could not have gone any longer. That's why when we got toward the end, it became all narrative, just describing what was happening and I was trying to convey like the gravity of what was going on and how I was trying to balance how the situation had grown into that point and the consequences of all the stuff that you guys had done so far in the game. And I definitely felt like at the end of the game, when I finally stopped the recording, I could have heard a pin drop. It was so quiet in there. Part of that was because at the end, shit just started going wrong. Starting with the character whose addiction to amphetamines, he finally ran out.
Starting with the character who chose to drink some water. Then shortly thereafter, it was the character.
I mean, that was like 5 minutes of almost nothing of any actual consequence.
I wasn't the first to fuck up.
That was so close in time that I don't remember which event happened
I'm just
first.
giving you shit.
I was gonna say when some of our party members gave away all of our specific information.
Not all of it, just most
We
of it.
actually only gave away one part of our specific information, which was no. We gave one of our information, which was 10 people. What else we gave away was the fact that we knew how many there were, and that wasn't, I think, that big of a deal.
Haley also gave a lot up too.
Well, we'll get into specifics later. Clayton, I think you're hitting home with a really important point about when this ended, it was dead quiet. You want to keep going with that?
Yeah. Immediately after we got done, we kind of like sat for like maybe 60 seconds, nobody really moving, and then we just kind of broke off and did our own things. I intentionally didn't follow anyone because I wanted to give you guys chances to like kind of vent, maybe about me, quite possibly. I very much felt that might have happened. Just the way that the whole thing had we were tired and it all just kind of seemed like it came crashing down.
It didn't feel like you just GM Fiat, screw all of you people. It felt like the natural collapsing of a very shoddily built house that was going to collapse. And we are all just hitting a wall and couldn't really go forward anyway.
I have come to find the really dissatisfying and like tragic ends of Apocalyptia games to just be delicious. It is so satisfying to me to see people sitting around like, if only this and that. Just heartbroken in all directions.
Honestly, like, when Clayton came in, and, like, I was up for a little bit, and he was, like, explaining what had happened, like, during, like, at the end of the game, and I, like, listened to it, and I was like, I felt bad, like, the whole time he was describing it, but then when he got done, and I'm sure he'll talk about why this was true later, I was like, okay, that was kind of awesome.
Yeah, I was the only person aside from, a Soul Eater Jordan over there that had a bit of a positive buzz afterward, just for whatever reason.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, then maybe aside from Chris, and I was just sitting there, and everybody else was breaking off, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna move these couches around. Come on, man, let's go move these couches around.
It's not that I felt that it was like an unsatisfying experience. I think it just felt so rushed at the end that I wanted to be able to solidify more of like what happened.
Yeah.
To all of us.
Rocks fall, everybody dies.
Well, but then we spent 36 hours building up a rock wall, only to have 1 minute of, the wall falls, some of you die. All right, let's break. Like, that's my only regret, is that due to time constraints and no one's fault, we just had to completely rush through, after 36 hours of gaming and very little sleep, this ending to something that otherwise felt like one of the most intensely satisfying build-ups of any game I've played. And that is, the only bad taste in my mouth was the rush nature of the end, not the plot of what went down. We can talk about that later, but the rush nature of it. That was just like, fuck. Like, that's the only thing I felt that was negative, really.
Yeah, that's I would agree.
Something I reflected on was, we talk about how hard it is to get like one-shots done in a 4-hour time frame. And this was a couple days where we literally took 36 hours to pretty much just play an RPG, and we still just, couldn't get it done. Part of it is party size. There are quite a few people in this room.
Oh, boy.
But I do think that's interesting.
I guess to clarify for our listeners, it was 36 hours together in a cabin, but we played
We played four sessions, each one like between 2.5, 3 hours long.
And one DM, 9 players.
10 players.
I was going to say 10.
Oh, fuck, 10. Sorry, 10 players.
There were 11
I didn't
of
get
us.
myself. 10 players. Any other just logistical things we missed to kind of set the scene here? Really cool cabin made of, like, wood and mice feces.
In copper.
And,
And copper water.
a fucking dope hot tub.
With just a wonderful layer of iron all
Oh,
throughout.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Love that rest.
But yeah, no, so I think that's something interesting to sort of consider, is that, like, if you're going to try to finish something out, I've realized personally that time management is much more important than I thought it was. And I'm not saying that, like, obviously...
Do you mean
you didn't...
in-game or IRL?
Both.
Yes.
Yeah, like, and obviously I'm not saying that you didn't time manage well. I'm saying, like, I've now realized, wow, like, if I were to do something like this or to do a one-shot again in the future, I'm really going to have to, like, try to plan and keep people on task, try to get everything done.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because with a regular run-of-the-mill session, it's always like, we didn't get enough of what I wanted done this week. See you next week. And you keep going until that storyline reaches its natural end.
Or everybody leave.
Where everybody leaves. This weekend, we were on the clock the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the pressure of a normal 4-hour one-shot, and if the ending of a 4-hour one-shot isn't satisfying, people are like, wish I could have done more.
Yeah.
But after this 4-session, 36-hour game-a-thon, that's why at the end of it, I was just fucking pissed and silent and had to go outside.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed too, but as somebody who's played in some bigger RPG groups, if you just let people discuss, like, how are we going to get water? They will discuss it for 4 hours straight and go back and forth unless you're like, guys, we need to do something now. And I think we did a lot of that at the start, and we got better as we went along. But there's no way to properly streamline a 10-person group, you know what I mean? Like, we all want to put in our 2 cents, and that becomes like $50 worth of bullshit by the end of it.
There is reason Vladimir was pantomiming, destroying, and taking apart shit.
Right. But I mean, I don't think that's the, like, yeah, I think it's partially the DM, like, the DM's not responsibility, but, keeping everybody on track. But if the players themselves can't self-police, then the whole thing is gonna go way longer than it needs to for just stupid things like that. Not stupid, but you know what I mean. Like, we will just talk about the most mundane
It's
shit.
not stupid,
for
but
forever.
after 4 hours, whatever you're talking about has become stupid.
And we tend to talk in circles a lot.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Because we all think the same, but just slightly differently.
It's almost like we all have to voice our individual opinions and speak about things ad nauseum and really not give anyone else a chance to speak, especially when there's a microphone involved. And when I'm looking around the rest of you in the room, it would appear that you would like me to shut up.
No, I wanted you to take another breath.
I'm just going to see how long you can hold it out.
I think one thing definitely is that Clayton and I both underestimated how exhausting it would be both to DM and to play in something this long. And we definitely overextended ourselves trying to do the food as well. Because I think that next time we would probably, like, have more along the lines of, like, pre-made or, like, ordering food as opposed to trying to make so much of it.
Yeah, next time I am not going to do anything besides Game Master.
Back to your very first point, Clayton. We were all tired at the end of it, we've all said, but when did you start to get tired?
On Wednesday, when we sat down to start after I'd started making breakfast at 9:30 and it was 1 o'clock when we were getting started because we had just got done eating and everything.
Yeah.
I was tired at that
Wait,
point.
you mean Thursday?
I'm sorry, Thursday, yeah.
So day 1, we had 1 session in the evening. Day 2, most of us sleep in. Some of us fall down the stairs. One of us wakes up and decides to make us all breakfast, and it happens to be our poor GM.
It was Beth and I.
2 of us decide to wake up and make us all breakfast. And that really sunk in when you told me that you were tired at the start of the big second full day. I mean,
Yeah.
There are very good logistical reasons for having one game night in like a week at most.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of just, S-ing your guys' collective D's a little bit, that really was awesome Wednesday, day one, for you viewer listeners, because we had those MREs that you bought.
Yeah, that's not something that came through on the recording. Is that because we had supper before we started playing? I had bought some genuine MREs, and we all shared in that for supper, and that was our getting into character for this scenario. And I know for me, it really put me in that like kind of survival mindset.
Oh, yeah. If you're not
things
familiar,
are rough.
An MRE is a water-activated heating pack inside of a waterproof bag into which you shove other waterproof bags full of max longevity, very storable, non-perishable food. Some of it tastes all right. Some of it does not. But they're meant for, emergencies, or if you're out in the field. And all of us in the story of this, which we haven't really got into too much yet in this podcast, we were in an emergency situation. And so sitting down, no one had to cook. You guys could sit. We could crack open the MREs, heat them up, laugh about how ridiculous they are. And that was so cool. That set the mood so well. It's awesome.
I also think the first day was, worked out extremely well because, we were all already excited, and then we got the surprise of seeing Lara and Matt, and, that just really, raised the group morale for this whole thing.
For context, I used to be part of this group before a lot of the podcast started, and ended up moving, about 9-10 hour drive away. So, us being able to be here this weekend was a long-planned and very well-kept secret, surprisingly. But...
Yeah, a plan and a secret that had, I conceived of doing this about 6 months ago. I let you all know about it about 4 months ago. And that's when I asked Lara and Matt to join us. I had planned from the beginning to invite you guys. And just the fact that we were able to all take time off of work to do this. We had plenty of time to get everything set up so that we can just devote ourselves to this during a couple of weekdays. This has been an experience I will always remember and I will always cherish.
Yeah. And one thing I think, definitely can be overstated is that it's a minor, maybe a major miracle that we were all able to get these 3 days off to do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do want to clarify that although at the end of it I was pissed and silent, in no way does that reflect upon my overall just fucking elation about the weekend. It's very cool.
And I think you guys will honestly, enjoy the game even more in retrospect once Clayton starts talking about some of the stuff he was telling me.
I'm looking forward to this post-mortem.
Yeah, this game is very much in the frame of what I consider an emergent story, where there are things going on, and it's the sequence of events that are not planned that present each personal story very, very early on. The moment you guys got on world, I started pulling themes from what you guys were saying, what you were wanting to do, the information you were gathering, and how you were interpreting that information. That is, more than anything, that is what guided the direction of the story. I had the most bare bones skeleton of a story to begin with. My story was, you have to escape this ship. That was my entire first night. It's going to be you guys escaping from the ship and getting down on the planet and basically getting your bearings on the planet and figuring out where the hell are we going to go next.
So just to have it concrete, there was no saving the Ark or any way to do so.
There was a way to save the Ark.
Oh no, really?
You had to go to if you were to go to command, there were things that you it would have required pretty much everyone. But I knew it was very, very unlikely that everyone was going to stick together. I knew the party was going to split as soon as you guys came out of those pods.
If we saved the Ark, would the entire thing have been in space?
There's only so much that you guys can do in space. There's only so much, opening up crates and, oh, look, we got a bunch more food. Oh, we got a bunch more weapons. We got a bunch more medical supplies.
Why even go to the planet? We have this wonderful ark.
If you guys literally only wanted to stay on the Ark and live there, I would have run that game.
We could have resorted to cannibalism.
You would have eventually had to resort to cannibalism. There was not as much food on there as what...
Oh, there's a lot of frozen food.
There actually wasn't a whole lot of food on the Ark. You guys got most of what was available.
Talking about people. Frozen people.
That is something that did not come up. The crew, in the story, the crew had been awake for so long that they actually did start to run out of rations. That's why there were actually more pods empty than what people went down.
Yikes.
No.
So in the game you had mentioned that the way that they selected people to bring down the planet was lost to time. But did you have an answer for that, or was it random?
It was the personal selections of the crew who were operating the ship. They got their loved ones out of cryosleep once they reached the planet, and the other people who were the most important. But it took a large crew to get the ship slowed down, get it ready to go down into atmosphere. It took a sizable crew. So the crew and their families ended up being the majority of the people who ended up going down. And there wasn't a whole lot of additional room for bringing other useful people down.
Gotcha.
Something I'll say is everybody did an accent this time around, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody.
Well, most people did.
Everybody, I'm pretty certain, at least changed their speech patterns and
vocal inflection.
Yeah.
This is what I meant more. Less so an accent, more everyone I felt like had a distinctive way of speaking in and out of character for the most part.
We really fell into character, and I thought that was super cool.
Yeah. You guys stayed in character so well.
Yeah, I told Clayton, I was like, if we had given a prize for who stayed in character the most, it would have definitely been Chris. I think he was Vladimir, all the time we were playing, and about 3/4 of the time that we weren't playing.
KP is a close second.
Yeah.
Very close second.
I was gonna say...
He did well.
And Kyle has, he's had problems reverting back to his normal.
I almost wish it was a visual medium, because there's a moment there where Lieutenant Jack was fighting to be.
You're not first, you're last.
This is who I am.
I'm very impressed with how I knew we could do it, but I'm impressed with how seriously we took the game. Although there were a lot of in-game, in-character times when, in retrospect, for example, we didn't need to spend 30 minutes arguing about how to conceal the ship's scorch marks and tracks. But I would have rather, I would have rather spent that 30 minutes having additional time at the end to button things up.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no way of knowing that. But all that aside, most importantly, we didn't have any times when we were sitting there bullshitting or wasting time during a session, and Clayton would have to reel us in. It was all pretty much in game, in character for the sessions. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
Yeah, there was full focus, and I think those discussions were so long because we were treating them as emergency situations.
Another interesting thing about staying in character and being focused and whatnot, etc. In most of the weekly RPGs we do, we always take time to be and this is time where you can we're in a tavern and we can build character relationships and we can get to know each other, etc. We didn't have that this time, but it happened extremely naturally. Adeline and Hazel became best friends at the end of this, and there was just a lot of natural development of friendships and stuff like that, and I thought it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, there were a lot of moments that felt really real to me that I think otherwise might not have hit as hard in a regular weekly gaming experience.
Are you talking about the sword?
I'm talking about the sword. Due to the fatigue, I was drifting in and out towards the end of it, but once I came back into it, I realized that I had missed Kyle's character leaving the group to one of the settlements on this planet, and as he left, he gifted to my character the sword that he had spent so much time making for his own use.
We're not talking about me. Irishmen don't use swords.
Yes,
No.
that was my character that did this.
Once I had that realization, like, he left that sword to me, and I didn't have much to say for the next 5 minutes or so, because I was just feeling that on a deep personal level. Like, very few interactions with this character, but
There was a bond there.
there was a bond, an unspoken bond between...
Between two just really handy men.
Yeah.
Sometimes they
He
still
didn't
go
have
and
to speak. The
sit
gift was
on
understood.
benches quietly next to each other.
I mean, I felt close to Alexis from the beginning because she was the one that followed me to the escape pods, and like afterwards I was just like, oh, I mean, she was really focused on her appearance. I was like, I could braid your hair if you want beachy waves. Like, I can make this happen for you.
Matt, I think it's really funny that you were asleep when that happened, actually.
Oh, yeah.
You woke
Yeah,
up
no, I
at
was-
the most appropriate moment.
I had to write down in my notebook what happened so he didn't interrupt, and he like started to tear up a little bit. He was so sad. Matt's also a weeb, you have to understand.
I think a lot of these things are a product of being in that isolated space, knowing that we were out there for something that had been planned for so long. We had a job to do, both in and out of game, frankly. I think that's something that you might start to lose touch with if you game once a week, week after week after week. Eventually you kind of start to take it for granted. And if you like the people, well, if you like the people you game with, which, who does that? Then it starts to become just a weekly get-together where you want to just hang out and shoot the shit. And there's nothing really wrong with that unless you don't get any gaming done. In this case, it was mission complete. I mean, we got together, we did the work, we had a blast doing it, and that was a pretty special experience, I think.
Let's put credit where credit's due. It was the fucking cell phone tub.
That
The cell phone
absolutely
tub
helps.
was wonderful.
Yeah, at the beginning of each recording, or before we started recording, I had everybody turn in their cell phones so that they did not have them there at the table as a distraction. Usually we allow people to hold on to their cell phones because we tend to use them to like send private messages like to the game master to get clarification on rules or to say any sneaky things that we're going to be doing. But in most games, when you're sitting around the table, it is a constant source of distraction that we eliminated for this retreat that we did.
Can resist anything but temptation.
There were times where, like, when someone else was doing something, I'd, like, feel my pocket, then be like, fuck. And I'd, like, look at the tub.
I have to pay attention.
Yeah, I'd be like, God damn it, I have to actually care.
Oh, other people.
Yeah, and I'd, like, look at the tub, and then I'd, like, KP, who is, like, guarding it like a fucking
You're
watchdog,
goddamn fucking right I was.
would just kind of stare at me and, like, slowly shake his head.
Oh god, it made group discussions so much easier.
Absolutely.
Oh my god, because everybody was paying attention for once. It
Everybody
was
was on the
very
same
good.
page.
For a group of 10 players, we all knew what everyone else was doing.
That wasn't
How the
secret
fuck?
anyway.
You can't even do that in a group of 4.
How many?
How about
4.
No, that was definitely helpful because we didn't spend like a net hour being like, yeah, okay, so here's what was just said.
Right, catch
You know?
me up.
Yeah, exactly. Unless somebody fell asleep, which, you know, a couple. So that I fell asleep too. That was not pointed. I think a lot of people dozed for at least a few minutes there.
I've never slept in my life, Lara.
Speak for self.
Sorry, I didn't drink the instant coffee from the MREs.
Drank a lot of that.
Don't worry, Kyle drank all of it.
I had some. Science needs coffee.
One other cool thing we did to mitigate the large group was allow and handle the logistics of like side conversations in a different room. And since we were recording this for an actual play, which you can check out on our channel, we also recorded the side conversations, and we hope to splice them in. Hadn't been done yet, but we would basically tell the entire group, you know, hey, me, so-and-so, and that person, we're going to go out on the porch for an aside. We'd go do that, knowing we would miss what was happening inside, and they would miss what we were doing outside. And so those were the only moments when, in character, we'd have to be like, yeah, we talked about this, or keep that stuff close to the chest if you wanted. But it wasn't, oh, I was on my phone, sorry, what happened, who needs healing? Yeah. It was, like, cool and in character done very well, I thought.
And then, sorry.
No, you got it.
I was just going to say, Clayton, would give, like, the lead person of the side group a timestamp and say, say this at the beginning of your side session so that I know where to insert it, and I thought that was a really good idea.
Mm-hmm. I liked the asides a lot because, like, they're recording them and whatnot, because in my experience when, I've been pulled away for side conversations, it's always just, like, been an out-of-character discussion, like, this is what I want our characters to do, etc., etc., whereas this time, for side conversations, we were all in character still, which I appreciated.
Jordan, talk about your character and how, in a weird meta way, your documentary filmmaker made this also feel more like a reality show. That was so cool.
Okay.
Sing your own praises, Jordan.
Yeah, sure. Let me suck my dick for a minute. I usually play like some kind of combat-y kind of character in one way or the other, and I decided to try to play somebody that was totally incapable of doing any violence. And so I made a National Geographic, like, wildlife documentarian kind of person.
Flip Nick Clayton.
Yeah. And, I don't know, what was your question?
Talk about Flip.
Talk about Flip, but also, I mean, to me it made the whole experience, both from a meta perspective, we were going to be making an actual play out of this, but from an in-game perspective, your character, I think, affected us. What did you do? I mean, just talk about it.
I don't know that I did very much to try to affect people directly.
His very point was to not affect people.
This is not going to come through on the podcast because it was all pantomiming, but for everyone to remember that you had a camera on them, you sat there with your hand mimic or pantomiming a camera, and you would like zoom it in and out on people's faces whenever they were talking.
I almost wish we'd like run around the room doing that, but not your style, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what else to
the
say. I wanted to observe, like, me as a person. Wanted to observe more. Towards the end of it, I got a lot more directly involved with things, but at first, I just wanted to, like, sit back and, watch what people did, and so it was a pretty natural place to take it.
Your interviews that you did of us was my favorite thing that happened in this game.
Yeah.
That
like,
was
period.
probably my favorite thing that I was directly involved in, interviewing everyone.
Well, because I think, for me, that was probably the most defining moment of characterization I had for my character, because I was confronted with the question, how would he be on camera? He's being asked these very deep personal questions about his experience, like in a way, summarizing for me as a person and for as a character, what was this whole experience like? How do you feel? Do you have any regrets? What do you want the people on Earth back home to know? And those were very deep questions to ask of me, and it made me think, who is this person really? How is he going to respond to that?
And the timing could not have been more perfect for whenever you finally did that, because we were gearing up to go into the end game for the scenario.
I was trying to think about, like, if somebody was at some, like, key moment in history, like, every now and then that happens, and you get, like, some cool behind-the-scenes documentary stuff, but, like, so much stuff just happens, and then there's some story that's told afterwards, but I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you could see all the, like, nitty-gritty, like, stupid human foibles along the way that led up to some thing that was of extreme consequence for, some huge fraction of the population of the planet. I like jumping back and forth between, like, checking out weird alien animals and what kind of strange shit they were up to, and then back to, like, interpersonal shit. I was thinking about, like, how that would be edited. It's, like, people arguing with each other, and then, like, slow motion of, like, lobster bears smacking the shit out of each other.
That was great. Like, your names for everything. I think my favorite was, like, bison squid or something.
Pretty good.
It's great.
It's why I had so much trouble sleeping last night. I could not stop thinking about the fact that our actions not only affected the outcome of this world and the people on it, 1,500 or so people, but should the film ever be transmitted, we had to Earth or wherever, or viewed by our own planet, we had these interviews, we had all this footage of everything we had done so far, and we knew what we had done. We had been there for 3 previous sessions, building towards the end game, the final one. and you had in-game footage of that. And then everything goes to shit. My character's interviews, I tried to imagine what, like, a straight-up just baller astronaut would say and think and do. And then he goes on a fucking firebombing run and just wrecks a village full of civilians. And I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was very, very sad.
You did not see writing on the wall early enough.
There's no writing on the wall to see when you're trying to build the wall before you write on it, my man.
You were trying to build roof before you built foundation.
Don't lay your Russian wisdom on me.
I think there was a weird mix of pessimism and optimism in this game. Like, at no point were you ever was Chris ever optimistic.
No.
On the flip
At least
side,
not that it would end out very well.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. And on the flip side, there was like KP's character was just John Glenn over there, really optimistic. And so I don't know. There's a lot of themes explored, and I think the interviews are both ironic in how things turned out. It's all very like narratively dramatic. Like we have these optimistic interviews, sometimes somewhat not optimistic interviews, and then what happened. And I think it's pretty cool in that regard. I know why KP like lost sleep over it and stuff, but I think it's a cool contrast.
Because it's very human to think of yourself and everything in terms of like, this is this heroic way I'm gonna like deal with everything, and then to go completely the opposite direction.
Or to try to do the right thing, to do the heroic thing, and the frustration when it doesn't pan out the way that you had originally planned.
Yeah.
That was a theme that your guys' optimism about the new world was something that I picked up very, very early. And especially...
You had to kill it.
Yeah.
I had to.
Human nature killed it.
Here's why I had to kill that optimism. Is because I began seeing the parallels between you guys coming into this world that has already been established. It has all of the things of a fully functioning group of societies with political systems already in place, histories already in place that you guys know nothing about. And the analogy of the Europeans coming over to the New World and saying, you know what, guys, you're all doing this wrong. We know the right way to do things. Why can't you do this? We're going to help you be better because we know the better way to do things. And we're going to allow you to form this council that is our idea. And you can all send representatives, and we're all going to be on the council too to help you with
as non-voting observers.
I feel like I'm being
That was
so
only
old.
what you came to, sort of, after it was pushed onto you.
This is why everything went
Sideways.
the way it did.
I did mention that was a bad idea in character,
Yeah.
but nobody wanted to listen.
You also thought getting in that hot tub was a bad idea, and it was a great idea.
Maybe thank you.
Tell that to your tetanus.
I know.
My jaw is fully functional, thank you.
Like,
All right,
random
Kyle, let's
fungus
not talk
starts
about
growing
memories,
out of your
Perkins.
assholes.
Clayton, I want to respond to your point because I don't think that I see the parallels that you're trying to draw, but I don't think it's as cut and dry a moral comparison as all that, because it's not like we showed up to some planet that had some intelligent life on it that had thousands of years of its own culture and they were doing their own thing, or even that they were humans that had been there that long or whatever. These were the children and grandchildren of the same fucking people that we showed up with. So it's not like they had, these hallowed ancient traditions that, deserve respect and all that. This was a bunch of, teenagers that run amok.
I'm surprised
From
how
one
none of our
perspective.
scientists brought up the fact that we were an invasive species. It's what we were. And
We would have brought
that's-
that up
that's how
before
humans
going.
are.
I want to ask a question in direct response to Jordan. How many years would have need to have passed for their culture to be valid enough for you not to want to interfere?
I don't know. I don't have a quick answer for that.
Their culture, they had been on planet for 80 years. The crew had been awakened 10 years prior to that. So that's 90 years of pre-established culture that you guys were coming into. And you were saying that, you know what, the way you guys have discovered how to survive on this completely alien planet, you know what?
We had whole days on that.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like that's good enough to explore another person's identity. You know, like, you're homeless for a day. Clearly, you now know what it's like to be a minority. Am I right?
I think, like, you know, if you feel like the colonialism metaphor is going too far, you could just look at it like, you know, I'm sure everybody's had a job at some point where you and everybody else in the lower echelons, like, you know how the work goes from day to day, and then you have somebody who's several, you know, levels up, like, sending you new systems to do, and you know that those systems are not going to work with what you're doing, with how you know the day to day to be.
Yeah, like, jokes aside, I did sort of start to see that comparison, Clayton, sort of when we first started talking about the meeting. But I'll say this, KP and Nina Richner, your guys' like conviction in they're just not seeing the truth. Like they're stupid. Like they're just not seeing it. You guys were so
they were called savages.
Yeah, by me, a ruddy Irishman with an amphetamine addiction.
I distinctly said I'm not going in this saying they're savages.
Why? I didn't say.
No,
I did not say you said they were savages. I'm saying
this is a thing yell at fish on me all this time. Like I've never said that.
I did not say that. I'm only saying that you were very much convicted that like if I can just help them see that they need each other to work together. And that there is a better system, they're just not seeing it.
Yeah.
Do you like mutant children? Do you like kids with 14 eyes and 32 fingers?
Did you see any of those?
About 200 years down the line we'd get those. Unless they can breed with crab bears.
Let's let Nina respond.
Fair enough with the colonialism thing. I'm not going to touch that right now because I'm disappointed in myself. But was this not the story of a planet that had that had a group of oppressors that we figured out weren't the ones we thought they were, but a group of oppressors and the story of a planet that would fall apart if peace didn't come to it? Like, that's I can't see them surviving if they continued this unfounded war. Like, I'm asking.
Yeah, when you're down to like 1,000 people and they're split into like 3 groups and they're still killing each other, like, the whole enterprise of being on that planet is kind of up for grabs. And another issue I take with your colonialism comparison is it's not like we had any other choice. You know, we didn't show up in our, faster than light craft and be like, oh, look at you, blah, 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 and then have the option of being like, well, we recognize your diversity and now we're off to the next place. Like, we had to live there. We had nowhere else to go. And so, we had to...
It was our burden.
We had no other option. That or fuck off as hobos.
I see exactly what Clayton is saying, and obviously I'm still convicted that Nina and I's characters were correct and Jordan's character was correct.
To be clear, I was making the point that conviction was cool as a roleplay thing because it actually brought my character onto the Enterprise initially.
Angelic.
Not the ship, the Enterprise.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
I got excited.
I know. But like, no, that conviction I thought was a really cool roleplay thing, because you guys were like, because I saw that, and I think Nina saw it, but like, you guys were like, no, like, humanity needs better, god damn it.
I also accidentally played an astronaut. What happened? On Jordan's thing, though, like, the survival thing, the last thing I'm going to say on it is, or on my opinion of it, is I wouldn't say it has some similarities to colonialism, but it's not an analog to it, because we had, like Jordan said, we had nothing to gain but survival. Like, it wasn't like we were going on this in, like, an enterprise to gain power or money or anything like that. Like, we just wanted to not die.
You didn't have Europe to go back to.
I'm still Amelie, I'm sorry.
I think it's important to understand for our listeners that there was a minority faction that was mostly okay with the majority faction of our party. It seems to me, maybe I'm wrong here, but the pulse I had is that there were about 3 or 4 of us who were pretty damn interested in taking all the supplies we could get and jetting off into the distance and doing a bunch of research and making a sort of knowledge arc that should these humans survive, leave them alone. Should they not destroy themselves, should they survive, they'll find our knowledge arc and our very mutated babies, because there were 10 of us. And then the majority faction mostly went along with, let's try to unite these people for peace, and if they won't, then we're not going to, really pick a fucking shitty totalitarian side to join. We'll just maybe go
Bomb
with Plan
them,
B.
apparently.
Well, the idea was to bomb them into submission, and if that didn't work, go to Plan B, which was jet off into the countryside, have mutant babies, and create a knowledge arc. Is that accurate?
I like that kill more of these very limited population was something before.
No,
Just the ones who wanted to make war.
We also initially
Just
weren't
the
gonna
ones who
bomb the
disagree
kill,
with
we were going to bomb their infrastructure,
Right.
which is no better. However, we weren't killing them.
Well, it was the infrastructure that was irreplaceable at the more technologically advanced stuff that came from the Ark.
The goal of leaving and creating mutant babies was not to create mutant babies, it was that
That was just
Oh,
a
that was
byproduct
KP's
of
goal.
what would have happened.
But you're right. Maybe there was some other things going on.
there was the fact that if these people can't get along, there's no long-term survival for our race on this planet as a legitimate thing, so we may as well live out our lives happy and on our own accord.
We wouldn't be happy. We'd be struggling.
I mean, we'd be struggling no matter what in the middle of a war, so we may as well do what we want because we had plenty of materials to survive and do it well. We were able to hunt. We found a way to purify the water.
Everything but that sweet, sweet biodiversity. Didn't have any of that now, did we?
We had tons of biodiversity.
Oh, no.
Not among people, but...
I mean, go fuck a lobster bear.
And also, to be fair, 10 people would get sick of each other pretty quickly.
No, I was going to say that that's another aspect of the emergent story that I appreciated, is that you, as a dungeon master, are challenged the ideals of our characters and, through them, us. Because personal opinion, I saw a lot of our personal opinions bubble up through those characters in the way that we reacted to those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I hate flying.
Do you want to talk about how you were the last pilot, or are we just going to...
No, we're going to gloss over that.
Cool.
Absolutely. Though I really want to emphasize that everyone, I think, did a good job of keeping it impersonal. I don't think everybody got... we've had that issue in the past in this group, and I think we've matured. And I think, although personal opinions obviously bubbled through into our characters, I don't think anybody got butthurt.
No.
It's good.
No, but it wasn't a dash and slash adventure. This was something that we had to think about a lot, and our opinions, our ability to survive, air quotes, as a group.
I think it's interesting that underpinning all of this conversation, that whole arc of where the plot went after session 1, was pretty much entirely gone the way that it went because of a random roll of a crate full of thermite grenades. If that was not rolled, it would have been a completely different situation.
Mm-hmm. So actually, it's my fault for rolling the thermite grenades. So if we're going to place the blame, guys, it's on me. I never got to say this, by the way, because the whole point of my character, I talked to somebody about it, was I was trying to challenge myself to not talk a lot and to be introspective, because typically when I play characters,
Bombastic?
Oh, I absolutely never shut up.
He goes.
So I was challenging myself this time. And something funny I just wanted to point out. You guys had me on the Enforcer Squad for the negotiations. Had things gone south, I hate to tell you this, but we probably would have died.
No, of course we would have.
I was a hyper-pacifist that would have never drawn my blade.
I know!
Why don't you fly and fuck the Jamaica Sardin, you daffy bastard?
He needed a soul!
When I asked you and Connor and Matt's character to come with us, I was just like, they're big dudes. They are large. One of them has a sword.
I'm just saying, and the sword was there purely for us, just decorative purposes, and the hope that conflict could be sort of dissuaded by the fact that, it's there. They don't know if I'll use it or not. So yeah, so had it gone south, Connor, you would have had to have taken the sword in my place.
Oh my
you did
god!
Anyway. But, man. How many pacifists has Apocalyptia had, Jordan?
A couple.
Just a couple. It's not a great idea.
Worked out this time, though.
Well, it can be fun. It can be really fun.
It was an interesting one you did.
Did anybody else keep anything close to their chest about their character? Like, I had no idea that Cosimo was a pacifist. That's hilarious.
Oh, I was gonna actually ask a similar thing of, like, if there's something in your backstory that just never came up, but...
Vladimir was an entire psychopath. He really...
That wasn't a secret, Vlad.
Yeah.
No, my character was a widow.
Wow.
Really?
Hmm?
Aw.
My character was an orphan. I don't know about any hard, deep secrets, though.
Well, like, stuff that would have, come up in either roleplay or combat.
I think the only other thing for Cosimo was he did not want to go on the mission initially. I don't know if I might have mentioned this too, but like, his family, he came from a very prestigious family in Japan, and they sort of really twisted his arm to go. They're the ones that signed him up. He got selected. They're like, well, I guess you have to go now, and he's like...
So did his family, hate him, or...?
They just wanted someone to go on this highly, advantageous thing for the family. Like, it's a good thing to say that, oh, there's a Tokugawa up on the Ark ship.
Honorable.
Yeah.
Something that that I never directly said, but Connor was kind of old-fashioned in his preference of mechanics to electronics. So in the year 20XXX, where I'm imagining electric technology is almost ubiquitous, he still preferred petrol travel.
Mm-hmm.
He still preferred things that worked purely on the interlocking mechanical parts, as opposed to technology which could fail.
Good old-fashioned penis to a vibrator,
In
if you will.
2147.
I know.
You are the last man to drive a car.
Yeah, but this vestige to the past.
I like that you, the guy who doesn't do electricity things, were also on the Ark ship that was from the spiritual successor of Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
So you're very Will Smith and iRobot.
Yeah.
Are you just Will Smith? Was Connor just Will Smith?
Scottish Will Smith.
Scottish Will Smith, wow.
Alexis was on the ship because her dad basically realized that he had completely screwed her up and made her this complete, just whiny, stuck up,
Well,
spoiled
send her
person.
off, try again.
And so basically he had enough money, she had almost nothing very useful, especially considering her personality, so he basically paid her way onto the ship and got her to go by telling her the line about how the planet was basically like Earth. He just left out that how it was basically like Earth was oxygen percentages and stuff like that. So she thought she was just going to New York, but out in space.
Okay, actually, this is so good. So, your character, amazing. First of all, loved her at first sight. Perfect. You would just say things sometimes, of things that have happened to you, such as, oh, I've been kidnapped by so many heads of state, and I'm just like, is everything okay? Are you good?
I found it was really, it was a combination of two things. It was finally actually doing a voice, which I found helped me to come up with things to say. And then also just the fact that I was so tired and had drank so much caffeine that it just made me completely loopy, and my brain was just going places that I just don't even know.
It was perfect comedic timing every time you spoke. I was like, thank you.
Okay, so hold your laughter and jokes, you bunch of jerks.
Yeah.
You done? Anybody else? Okay. So, it sounds very obvious that I would make a pilot, but I ended up having some very somber thoughts that my character realized about that role. The warfare stuff aside, even, something I had planned for my character initially was to have him be, this very charming Irishman, and initially maybe try to get close to someone on the crew. But in the end, my character became fairly obsessed with the aircraft, and only because my character was acutely aware that in 200 years, it is highly unlikely, I'm going to even say impossible, that we'll have any capacity to manufacture new things made of metal and equipment. It's going to eventually turn into a very primitive farming, settlement-based society. We could build wooden ships, we saw that. We're not going to make more ammunition. We're not going to print we're not going to stamp out more case more bullet casings for our guns. So, a couple hundred years from touchdown, we might have a few people with like a revolver that's been dunked in oil or cosmoline and like, kept it working for 200 years with like 2 bullets that might work. And so it could be like an instant death magic missile, but we weren't going to have any dropships. We weren't going to have really any like electric motors or batteries left. Those things wear down. We are not going to manufacture new batteries. No fucking way. And it was going to turn into a primitive thing. And it was very somber and weird and hard for me in real life to imagine that life and imagine what a person who was very electronically minded and very piloty would think about that future. And yes, it was very fucking cool to be the last pilot that will ever be. But
within 5 light years.
Yeah. But really that was a very odd thing I did not expect from my character. It was cool.
I guess I'm just really curious about if Earth ever got our message and what they would have said and what they would have done, knowing that the Ark had fallen, but the survivors that exist. Because the old crew had to send something out to them, and did they receive message back from Earth as they were living these years on the ship?
Yeah.
You said it was 10 years before they actually got planet
I said
side.
5.
Yes.
Or 10.
It's
It's 10
5.
years, but it's 5 years to get to Earth. That's
5
what
to
I'm
Earth.
saying.
Yes.
5 back.
10. Okay, they woke up 10 years short. If you had made it to the bridge, you would have discovered that that the ship encountered a gravitational anomaly that slowed it down. That's why they were so short. So they were able to send a message back to Earth, but they didn't get a message back in time for. They were pretty much SOL. There was no help coming. I hadn't planned on any actual response from Earth because what's Earth going to say? Well, here in 80 years, you'll get some relief.
No, but Earth just changes their like Facebook photo to "I stand with the Ark."
Yes.
I half expected you to pull something like at the very end, like battleship jumps out of light speed in orbit and is like, "All right, idiots."
Humans did actually make it here.
I assumed that Earth was dead.
Oh, that's depressing.
But even if it wasn't,
Apocalyptia!
No, you're not wrong.
wasn't, they wouldn't send any help. Like
Oh, no.
they
The best
for this knowing something.
Literally, the best Earth could do was, sorry about your loss.
Yeah, no, seriously. I feel like we sent some type of waiver of like, hey, could just fuck up. You could.
Yep.
It would suck, but it did.
I do have a question for the GM that is completely unimportant, but I would like to know, how does Earth receive Kazuma's book as well as the documentary once it finally gets way to it? Because I know that we sent it.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, didn't we?
No, we have no way to send it.
Yeah.
He was spending his time trying to build a way to send it, but we don't know if he actually did or didn't.
Oh, I thought they did.
Yeah, to send something out back toward Earth, you needed the Ark ship.
That's... Oh.
Did Purple Delta at least like my book? Or did
Yes, it
Okay.
Put that into the base.
It was a triumph
in the
of the true
narrative
commander.
of the world. It is a classic novel.
It was a bestseller. It sold like 100 copies.
It was the first bestseller of this world.
10% of the population has read your book.
Novel written on this planet. Congratulations, Kazuma.
Oh, thank you.
That was an interesting thing that I haven't seen in any other games was players creating in-game art.
Yeah,
Very
okay.
It's so rarely useful.
TJ wrote 2 books in Hunter.
Sorry, I didn't remember that.
They did.
Hmm.
They became New
This
York
is-
bestsellers.
Well, this is for Apocalyptia.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, not Apocalyptia. That was really cool. Plus, it had an actual impact.
I think, Jordan, you mentioned the actual mechanic of creating a work of art was whoever you give it to receives, like, 1 sanity, right?
No,
You get one for creating a work of
when you do
artistic
something
expression.
intensely personal, when you make something, you get a psyche back. And there's an item in the game, one of the documents is a classic novel that is just whatever. It's a random thing people can find. And so Clayton made your book a classic novel, and when you have that, you get 1 extra psyche.
Because you just read for joy.
Reading it. Yep.
Thank God. That was cool though. Yeah, I'd never really done anything like that in a game before, and not Apocalyptia, like any game. And so it was kind of cool to like, even though obviously I didn't actually write anything, I just thought of some themes and a name, the vestige of aspiration, to be pretentious. And I don't know, it was fun. I'd never done something like that before. I hadn't gotten to make art in a game. I'd also never really played an artist character. It was fun. It was fun to try something new. I guess that leads into a question, actually. How much do you guys feel as though your characters... I know Jordan's mentioned this is not something he normally does, but how much do you guys feel like your characters challenged you personally?
I mean, like, what firsts did we achieve?
Yeah, or did you feel like this was different for you? Did you feel like this was something that was outside your wheelhouse?
I definitely feel like Alexis was like really different from anybody that I've played before. I did. I took sexy, and then I was like feeling bad for like the second half of the game, so I never did actually get to use it. But except just on myself, apparently, since I was always just thought I was the cutest thing.
I'm like really cute. Like I can talk her way at anything.
Yeah, I feel like it because I mean she was a lot of fun to play, but she also took a lot of energy. Because I really felt like I had to like be on. I really had to push myself to put that much just, I don't know, energy into my voice.
You had to be on.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Personally, this is the first character I went in without having a plan of what I wanted for them. Normally, when I make characters, I like overplan them. I'm really big into like writing out backstories, and I barely had my stats set for who I wanted her to be. So I wanted to play it out and play off of the rest of the characters, and the only thing I really had was an accent to figure out where they went, and I'm really happy with her progression of where she went in this more secretarial person who liked to take notes, to document, to observe, and just figure out who she was really minutely in relation to everyone else's very defined characters. I don't think I'd do it again. I really prefer planning, but I'm glad I attempted that approach.
The accent was actually a big thing for me, and I know I lost it a couple of times there, but I'm like, I don't consider myself a very confident role player in talking oftentimes. Like, I grew up doing it in text, so I'm like, and I studied writing, so I'm like way more used to actually being able to plan out what I'm saying and everything, and I get a little nervous whenever I do accents and whatnot, because I'm not good at them, but I'm like, we're with a bunch of friends. I'm just going to go for it. And it would actually help me get a lot more into character. So it was fun to do something kind of out of my comfort zone in that sense. And I'm not a doctor, so.
It's funny that this was your least planned character, Hayley, because I feel like this was your most plot-involved character.
Really?
I mean, you were basically our communications officer. You were constantly listening and relaying what you heard about the people around us. Maybe most plot involved isn't quite right, but you very much felt plot
largest
involved.
source of plot information.
Yeah, which is unusual for your characters, I think.
Thanks.
So maybe you should plan less.
Yeah. I kind of felt I was in a mix of Sigourney Weaver from Galaxy Quest and Kaylee from Firefly, personality-wise, and then Operation Shop-wise.
I don't think I've ever played a character like Amelie before. I mean, lead negotiator and just taking charge was not something that I've ever done before. And oh my god. Hey Kyle, how do you do it? It was so stressful.
I might have been the leader we needed, but you were the leader we deserved. Really, in the beginning, just with me being the only pilot able to get the dropship off and everyone deciding, yeah, let's try for the dropship, it ended up throwing my character into a leader role that I wanted to get rid of, especially with the bombshell of my amphetamine addiction coming. But I think you did very well. I really think that you took over the mantle and really did it better than Jack would have. Especially considering he was going to be taking -7s. Well, -6s. At -7 he passes out.
He didn't die.
Why you chose that flaw?
I just wanted a flaw, man. And we had never had an addict character. They're in the Apocalyptia rules, the capability to do that. All sorts of drugs in the Apocalyptia rules. It was also a very... that was a first for me, so back to KD's question. That was a new thing. And I don't know if I'd do it again. I didn't really like it.
Well, aside from the pain penalties, how much did you feel like it affected you mechanically and in a roleplay sense?
Well, that's the thing. My character was a ticking time, not necessarily bomb, but he had a limited amount. It was a burning wick, burning candle. There we go. And at the end of my drug allotment that I had managed to scavenge off the ship, he was going to be basically useless. If I had known the mechanics more, I would have spaced it out differently, and maybe it wouldn't have come up in the game. But I'm glad it came up in the game. I'm glad Clayton, was firm about it, because it made for a very interesting and explosive finale to this thing. But it was also one of the reasons why I had trouble sleeping, because I was just very sad that this was like the first, astronaut I've ever got to play, and that's a very near and dear thing to me. And he ended up turning into a drug-crazed warmonger.
But the time in which that happened, that you ran out, was so dramatically appropriate.
Oh yeah.
That and the accidental contamination of
accidental. Hey, okay, so in character it was accidental for me. I just knew that Clayton had like this whole pathogen system. I'm like, nobody's done it. It's the last hour. Nobody's gonna do it. Hey, Clayton, look!
It happened about an hour after Clayton was like, I didn't catch anybody not using their straws.
I actually didn't hear that. I was just like, this is boring.
We haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah,
no.
Talk about the life straws.
For the listeners, in order to try to create a fully immersive experience, I passed out at the very beginning of the first day. I passed out a single straw to each one of the players and informed them that this is the representation of what in the real world is called a life straw. And what this device does is it purifies water. It's a straw that has filtration equipment inside of it, and you just drink it like you would drink a normal straw, and it filters out all the bad stuff in water. Well, I told everyone that I have a box of water that has a dozen individually wrapped 4 ounces of water. This is your safe water to drink. If I ever catch you drinking from any other source of liquid besides this without using your straw, that means that your character has somehow exposed themselves to potential pathogens, and we're going to roll to see if you get an infection. And that's when, toward the end, Lara took a swig from a water bottle without her straw, and we got to see how infections worked in Apocalyptia.
Dead eye contact.
One thing I want to touch on, too, in case listeners are curious, is how the addiction and drug stuff works in Apocalyptia. For every day that you don't have the substance to which you are addicted, you suffer a -1 pain penalty that is cumulative. You can fight pain through various things, either finding your substance or there's other, things that can reduce pain penalties. The only way to get rid of an addiction is to spend 36 XP to basically negate the addiction flaw. It's a type of character flaw. You can spend 36 XP, negate the flaw. You gain XP equal to your brains at the end of every session. My character had a brains of 4. We played 3 sessions before my go pills ran out. And so there was no chance in this game of me overcoming withdrawals. So as it were, our science beans had to scramble to make more amphetamines just so their stupid pilot could do his job.
No, a science bean and the therapist, because our other science bean was sick.
Right.
And it wasn't easy, considering couldn't find chemicals for shit, apparently.
Yeah, you guys are cooking junk meth. Fuel and just random chemicals out of a drawer.
We did end up siphoning fuel.
Yeah, you guys just throw it at him. You're like, take some of this, you junkie.
Here, we put jet fuel in a syringe. We're just gonna see what happens.
You love planes so much, right? Let's see if you fly.
Me and Valentina take the same fuel.
Valentina will feed me.
I think my favorite part about as shit started to hit the fan was that Cosmo, had no idea what was happening. So he locked himself in his room for 10 days to edit that novel. So he just missed the shit incident with Lara's character. He missed
Shit incident!
he missed you, like,
It wasn't even a
tweaking out.
dignified pathogen.
He came out and everyone's really stressed, and he's like, "Why did this happen?"
Did the peace talks go well? What happened?
Honestly, though, all of that happening right at the finish line amped up the stress so much.
Oh yeah,
that
absolutely.
It felt good in the worst way. Like, it definitely felt like it's like, no, we're so close.
That's what frustrated me so much, is that I know the point of Apocalyptia is that things aren't going to go the way you plan. It's an actual apocalypse. But I always think, for some reason, that's going to end up well, and the peace talks are going to go through. And this time I was so certain. We were just so close, and then it didn't happen. I was like, I was just like in shock.
Yes.
Because I was so convinced that we got it. We had it in the bag. We were going to get out. We were going to make a settlement. We were going to survive, regardless if we got Purple Delta to be on the peace talk. And then it just
we
crumbled.
did those things.
I'm sorry. You're not shooting yourself.
No.
We actually went back on that. I'm sorry, I just want to point out Jordan's shit-eating grin for that whole rant. Just like, oh my god.
Hurts and
An exercise in
can't
futility.
do this, Jordan. You can't.
One day you'll learn, Hayley.
Yeah, there's a discussion to be had about our epilogues and stuff for this game, but I don't know if we want to do it in the podcast. I can explain, Hayley, why that didn't happen.
Okay, great. Are we having the epilogue as a separate podcast?
I don't know if anybody wants to hear our shit. It's our story.
Well, I don't know if it's part of the actual play and we're going back on some things that were said. I think it's important that they're recorded. So
That
the
was
audience
said on
knows
the
what happened.
podcast.
It could be a way to cross-promote. They listen to the actual play, you're only going to get the ending by downloading the DLC. You listen to our podcast, fuckos!
A bunch of microtransactions.
Oh, yeah.
Disgusting.
To hear accents, insert $1.99.
Well, before we start talking about epilogues, I want to talk about a couple of things. One thing that we definitely put the Apocalyptia rule system through its pace was the teamwork rules. I've never been in a game that involved use of the teamwork rules more often, and we definitely discover an edge case that at first glances we thought, you know what, this doesn't work, and then we thought about it a little bit more, and it's like, you know what, that actually makes sense. Whenever you guys were trying to do this one task, and there were 3 of you working on it, one of you had efficient work, and it was literally more efficient for just 2 people to do the task than for 3, because it was going to get done quicker with just 2 people working rather than 3 people working on it. Because the third person would have been the third wheel, throwing off all the work that the other 2 were doing. Their contribution was actually detracting from the overall efficiency of the 2 of the people working. Jordan, what do you think? Do you think that's a feature or a bug of the system now?
I've thought about it a lot, and I think I like that bit about efficient work. I like how the time gets divided, and yeah, there is a point where you just got too many motherfuckers trying to get their hands in on whatever's going on. I am going to revise a few of the build specialty things just to make the system a little more uniform, because like building a new thing is a little different than customizing an existing thing or repairing a thing or salvaging it, whatever. And as it was, I realized like how disjointed the crafting system as a whole was. So I'm going to give it a lot of thought to try to make it all much more smoother, transitioning from one thing to the other. And maybe like something about the types of things that are good to do teamwork style and are some things that are better to do individually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think teamwork foraging makes sense, or some other things like that are just like go out there and see what you can bring back, folks. Crafting, stuff like that, chemistry, I think it makes sense. I don't know, it's a work in progress.
I think it's a pretty good note for anybody out there homebrewing your own system or setting. The obvious answer is, hey, fucking play it. But getting a group together for a very focused, intense, iterative series of games followed by a debrief, a post-mortem, is a pretty awesome way to learn about the shortcomings of that system. Every time we play Apocalyptia, we figure something else out, I feel like.
One way that I modified the system a little bit, and I want to hear your feedback on, because I'm definitely going to be sending my notes over to Jordan on this, was how I generated the alien creatures. The way in which I did it was I had a list of all the creatures that were in, all the animals that were in Apocalyptia, put those on a table, randomly roll for a creature. Then I had a separate table that was inspired by the Traveler system, where there was a series of modifiers on those animals. So, for instance, the first encounter with a creature, I rolled for a razorback boar, and I got the modification that it is heavily armored. The second encounter was I got gorillas, and I got the modification pack animal and fast.
Uncomfortable.
You were really good at the animal noises too. Those were very, very realistic.
Killed whole family of gorillas.
This man saved my life.
Call it what it is. This psychopath saved your life.
Saved his own life, and I happened to be there.
You were around.
That's pretty funny.
I really enjoyed the aliens in this a lot.
Agreed.
It definitely worked for the unexplored world. Not knowing what we were going to find out there, and even you not knowing what we were going to find out there.
Right.
Having a base stat for a reference and then adding some weird mutations to it was definitely a very fun experience.
Yeah. Something I forgot to mention that was going on during pre-game prep while we were eating was I hooked my computer up to the TV, and I had gone online and got a bunch of pictures either of real-world landscapes or of artist renditions of alien worlds. Also pictures of animals, either, again, artist renditions of what alien animals might look like, or very unusual Earth animals. And I had those going in a slideshow while we were eating. And so we were sitting there eating, kind of talking amongst ourselves, while in the background all of these really weird, completely alien images were on the screen, kind of percolating in our brains.
One of them was a star-nosed mole, and I'm really upset we didn't find any of them. They're very cute.
Maybe that's what hashed out of the eggs Nina's character got.
Yeah, I kind of used that description with the razorback boar with its face all tentacled out and flared.
See, I didn't get that description because we were outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do my eggs ever hatch? Do I ever have little tiny boars?
Are we going to talk about epilogues now?
Is that a transition?
Yeah, that'll be the transition. Yeah, you do eventually hatch out these creatures.
How tameable are they?
Well,
I mean, if they're going to see me as their mother.
You don't know if they imprint. Because if they don't, you're kind of shit out of luck, aren't you?
This is danger science. That's what we specialize in.
My basis for the flora and fauna of this world was, one, there is no green chlorophyll. It's all red, which I've described every plant as being red. The other thing was I based all of the animals either on electron microscope pictures of actual animals that look completely alien. Particularly, I had a picture of a maggot on the slideshow. I had a picture of a water bear on the slideshow. Those were some of the animals. The rest of the animals, I did a lot of research on what types of animals were alive during the Carboniferous period. Because during that period, Earth's oxygen was approximately 32%. There were a lot of insects that were quite a bit larger than what they are now. Reptile-like creatures were evolving. So that's the entirety of the types of stuff that you guys encountered while you were there on planet.
That's a fun little tidbit for you if you don't know. Higher oxygen content means larger. You can have megaflora, megafauna. If the oxygen content's higher, shit can grow bigger. Pretty cool little factoid.
Something that wasn't rolled for on the table that I wish had been was the fact that the air was denser Therefore, it actually took a light creature needed less actual buoyancy in order to achieve lift. So I had hoped to roll that you guys were going to encounter some floating animals, but it never came up.
From an in-character perspective, I was so completely annoyed that the humans couldn't get their shit together long enough for me to be there for the animals that I was there to be there for. I'm not really talking about the group. I'm talking about the human civilization that's tearing itself apart. Like, I just wanted to fuck off all that and go fucking catch some really cool floating animals and such the whole time.
So, back to animals, back to epilogue. These things are mostly reptilian, like the basis of them. There are very few reptilian animals that basically attach, like have some sort of, like seem to...
Are you talking about
become pets?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking about the eggs.
Did we mention that in the podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I missed it.
So those eggs, they would have hatched. I don't know whether or not they would have been tameable.
Could have just kept them in a pen.
Yeah. It definitely could have been something that you could have been, like, kept in a pen and raised as a food source. I was fully prepared to take the razorback aspect of the animal and, like, actually make that the defining features of this animal, that you could have had this off-world version of pigs here in
food and armor source.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
gonna say. There was like double use there.
Mm-hmm.
We use every part of the animal.
So that's pretty cool.
If there's one thing I always hated about so many depictions of aliens, it's that, we've got this alien from a completely different world, and it's like a dog with a wig.
Now this thing had slimy tentacles and wanted to eat me.
Look at this crazy alien. It's Michael Dorn with some prosthetics. Leonard Nimoy with some pointy ears. It's crazy alien!
Leonard Nimoy had green tint to his skin, though.
You're right.
Epilogues? Anything else? That was yours, Kyle. You wanna
Oh, well, I don't think I can think of anything else from a analysis of our experience that would be interesting myself. Does anybody have any other stuff about that? I'm pretty fried, really. In the best of ways.
So, did your character blow his brains out at the end?
Okay, so no. I want to make sure no one, especially you, Clayton, thinks that I was frustrated at them. I was not. I was frustrated, mostly because I knew we were all exhausted, it had to end, and there was just no way to do it justice in the amount of time we had. And what I did say on camera in the actual play, or on microphone in the actual play, is true. My character would have locked himself in the cockpit, gone on the bombing run, stayed locked in the cockpit, began to go through amphetamine withdrawals again, but before it got too bad, the ship had about 2 hours to 2 days. I forget how much fuel we had left.
2 hours of actual flight.
Okay, so 2 hours of flight time remaining. Quite a bit, really. We had said that with 5 hours of flight time, the dropship could circumnavigate the globe, for the listeners' perspective here. So 2 hours flight time left. With what flight time remained, my character was going to assist with the unification of the Scorpion settlement, which was one of the larger groups, and the Fisherman's Ridge settlement, which was the small, kind of isolated group. The two of them agreed to cooperate. I would have helped haul people and supplies back and forth, all the while getting more and more fucking nutty. Until finally, if anybody had really gone up to the cockpit and knocked and been like, "Hey buddy, how you doing?" It would have been pretty obvious that he was intending to finish the job, kick all of you out, and fly off somewhere to basically die. But I said that because with the time we had left, there was no way to roleplay out anything else. But it is possible that our resident psychologist or friends could have convinced him to come out, leave the dropship to be harvested for resources, strapped him to a radiator, and begun the detox. But it was not going well, especially considering his optimism, desire to really put forth this astronaut, ideal of peace and understanding, and then go and firebomb a bunch of civilians and really the goal was to blow up the equipment, sure, but it was a town full of equipment and people. So that's what would have gone down. That would not have been ramrodded through. Had we the time to roleplay it out, I would have preferred that it succeeded in convincing him to come out, but it would have taken some pretty interesting arguments, or perhaps some interesting methods. Thermite the lock off of the cabin, maybe. The cockpit, but...
If we were able to save you, well, not save you, but get you to come out, would you have settled in scorpions or fisherman's ring? Because I know that was a choice that not many of us wanted to make, but ended up making at the end, just because we didn't really have anything else to do.
He probably would have been some sort of, just supply person, tried to get a vehicle or some pack animals eventually, and just be someone that made the trip constantly back and forth. I don't see him ever settling down and really becoming a colonist with a family, because his mind is that if Purple Delta never came through, we only had 600 to 750 people. It was hopeless, and it would have just been a basically long, protracted, several hundred-year mutant death.
I think there were some discussions between me and Nina about whether or not we could scientifically make 700 people work genetically.
Well, the genetic bottleneck is when there's 1,000 people, or 1,000 of a species. It doesn't become unviable until it gets significantly below that. So humanity was still viable down in the numbers that you guys were working with, even if it was just one of the one large settlement. That would have been long-term viable, but it's just an increased chance of genetic
a disease could have just killed enough people that it would have become not viable.
I mean, this is like Kurt Vonnegut's Galapagos. We would have had to have had a character who planned out a very stringent eugenics program, essentially. All right, you and you, today is your day to go and make a baby.
There's a lot to it. But, I mean, from my standpoint on that, and I was one of the ones who's probably most upset about Jack just kind of deciding to fuck off into the night.
Yeah.
Go gently into that night. Yeah, I mean, Addie felt that they had grown a bit closer over the adventure. And she wanted to help kind of find ways to synthesize different plans to either help you through the detox process or, get you more bargain basement meth until we could find a way to detox you. So that was my goal.
I want to jump to Beth because I could not do justice to what you had told me happened to your character whenever you had to step out of the game for a while. Mm-hmm. So can you tell everybody kind of the interaction that they would have had with Alexis?
Oh, I was starting to get sick, and I was like, I wanted to do something that could take Alexis out of the game for an indeterminate period of time, so if I felt better later, I could come and step back in. So I decided that since she'd been spending most of her time hunting for cosmetics and ways to curl her hair this entire time, that she had found some sort of unknown blue powdery substance and decided that looked like eyeshadow. She put it on her eyes, and they immediately swelled up, completely shut. And she, being so vain, would have refused to even try to interact with anybody. So she, basically, locks herself in part of the dropship. And if anybody tried to contact her, she would have basically whined. She would have been like, "Oh, just go and let me die in peace.
I'm horrible. I'm a monster."
Such a fun.
What a way to go.
And you tried to drive her into the ocean.
She was still on the dropship.
If Jack would have gone, if nobody could have convinced, if we could have played this out, and the roles or whatever didn't work out, and Jack would have flown off, he didn't want to be a total selfish fucker. He would have flown about 5 minutes away, landed on the beach, and blew his brains out in the cockpit. So you'd have just heard a pop, and you'd have been all right. Whole dropship to yourself with no fuel.
Vladimir was little miffed. Made great battle plan. No one around to do it. Take plan to Scorpion. Sell to Scorpion. They go take out Purple Delta. Peace on planet. Peace through power.
I wish we would have had an hour to do the ambush that Purple Delta set up for us and roll it out and have some cool combat Didn't get to do any of that, unfortunately, but that would have been interesting to see how that played out.
How many of them you could have taken out before your rifles ran out of their 15 rounds each?
15.
We had a whole case full of
Pistol ammo.
ammunition.
Of pistol ammo, yeah.
Yeah, 50 thermite grenades. They had what, like 10
Most
vehicles?
of which were hooked up to our engines.
Yeah, can we discuss that? Because that was never actually said in game.
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Side.
It was said in the side. It was not mentioned to the party at large.
It was
stressed me
Connor, Jack, and Flip.
So we spent a couple days in secret using our newfound creative thermite grenades to create a dead man switch on the engines of the ship and on one of our people in the negotiations.
Yeah, did y'all know that Flip had a bomb vest on?
What?
I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
It was our contingency plan.
Honestly,
killing
Jordan,
yourself?
you should have done it, man.
If they'd have tried anything there, I
If
would've-
negotiations had soured, we wanted a way out.
death is not,
Not
a way
ideal.
out.
Not ideal.
Last, fucking...
Yeah, what
Resort.
happened, that was ideal.
So
This was ideal.
having said how the campaign ended, I imagine like Connor rushing to the back and frantically cutting off thermite grenades from the engines for the fire.
And you're like, a mistake. It was a mistake. You're taking the katana and you're just like kind of like trying to hit it off.
Hanging on while the ship is like lifting off. Just like.
Clayton, what do you see happening to Purple Delta
Death.
in the future? I'm curious.
Hey, I live there now.
Death.
We don't know that.
With the brilliant black battle plan that Vladimir was able to put together,
You're like a 30
Yeah,
something.
it was 30.
God.
And that was raw roll. I had no skill in that.
I just don't.
if a great Soviet or Russian general could pop into my mind, I would call your character that, but I don't know of any because I'm a dumb American. But that battle plan, with the numbers that you guys had, if you had taken the battle force that was available at Scorpion Community, you could have ended the regime at Purple Delta.
Oh, that's cool. Bunch of soft-handed, lily-livered bastards.
It worked out.
Yeah,
after
that was you in that one. I wanted plan of war. Much faster.
Oh, Amelie got a bit power hungry there at the end.
I still remember
What happened to peace?
4 days. To which I'm like, we vote on it. Who wants 3? No, but like, I liked that you and Kyle toward the end there were just like, well, peace didn't work. Let's just bomb them back to the Stone Age. We got all these thermite grenades. I actually did not know that most of them were hooked up to the engine, so I do imagine that was a logistical.
I don't think most of them were. How many thermite grenades would it take to blow up a fuel tank? We had 50.
You put it on the engines. I was specifically told the engines.
Oh, well, it was supposed
So
to
it would
be
have
fuel
taken
tank,
one
but
an
no.
engine.
It was the end.
Okay. So, like, we used maximum of half, maybe.
Plus one on him.
I had one on
Referring to
me.
Jordan.
You only had one on you? Should have had like 6.
I just asked for a bomb vest, man. I'm not specking it out or anything.
We'd say 4 engines and 6 in the bomb vest, so we had farty left. Anybody else? Any other epilogue questions? Figured we'd have a lot more than this.
Most of us ended up going up to Fisherman's Ridge. Were we able to survive off of what was there on the land? Was we able to help it prosper?
Can we get them energy?
Actually, before that, I know I said Fisherman's Ridge initially, but in the moment after like 10 seconds of debilitation, which was more than y'all took,
Little bit
I
of retcon, yeah.
think I probably went to Scorpion's community pretty quickly.
We'll have to dub that into the actual play. Nina, where do you go? I choose to go to Scorpions eventually.
Well, I mean, initially Fisherman's Ridge would have been, I would have followed y'all there because you all went there, but after that, I would probably still want to have, I'd probably still want to work towards some type of peace. I bet you had switched between the two a lot, but I'd probably try to foster the peace between, and like trade and immigration between Fisherman's Ridge and Scorpion's community.
I mean, they basically already had it.
Well, I
It was
know,
mostly
but-
Purple Delta that was the issue.
I know, but they didn't appear to have any type of, like, emissaries between the two. Like, sure, they had trade, but I wanted, like, a political unification between the two.
Do you think they would have had you at that point?
I'm pretty sure they were not, like, they were allies by the end of it when they came and said, yeah, sure, we'll do this. Like, they agreed.
Yeah, they were on board with the plan to create a to unify. They were on board with that.
I mean, after, what we did to Purple Delta, would they have had any of us in power at that point?
I didn't want power, per se. I just wanted to help.
Just wanted to be in charge.
Be a diplomat. Like, go between the two and maybe even go to Purple Delta again and try that. But it wouldn't be a power thing. It'd be a emissary, a diplomat,
Purple Delta got shattered by my glorious battle plan.
Fair enough.
Similarly, I wanted to be, like, just start a trade and shipping route. Like, I just wanted to drive an electric pickup truck with some fucking rickshaws behind it. I don't
Think
know.
a UN ambassador and not a president.
Definitely could have happened.
So did Cosmo get killed? I know he missed the initial firebombing, but did he get murdered in the battle plan?
I see him as surviving. I mean, you wrote a best-selling. You wrote a seminal work in the history of this world. They're not going to force you to
Be on the front lines.
They're not going to force you to drink hemlock.
Okay, alright. I'm not a Socrates. Okay, that's good.
Leave me to my triangles.
They're not going to give you a knife and expect you to commit seppuku.
Well,
He doesn't have that knife anymore.
yeah, the katana was probably just a rather large knife given the materials we had to work with, but god damn it, Matt, it's yours now.
So what did happen to Purple Delta in the end?
Sounds like they would have gotten conquered.
Shattered.
Were there survivors, and if so, did they scatter around to apologize to the different settlements and try to live on?
Why wouldn't
They would
make
not
them
have apologized.
They would stop being an organization of which they could apologize. They wouldn't have literally gone and executed every single one of the 500 people.
Or more
That's both logistically a pain in the butt and not really that useful.
Space Nuremberg trials.
I mean, and I'm assuming there were refugees from Purple Delta. You don't generally make refugees apologize.
Yeah. So,
I mean, refugees captured.
Let's apologize, more like coming in and asking for their ability to say, yeah, let bygones be bygones and allow them to keep living in societies that weren't, crisped.
And then Hazel and I make up that eugenics plan.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is the name of this goddamn planet?
Oh my god.
I never decided.
Can somebody just make up something just so we have a fucking name?
Well, you named
fucking
all the flora and fauna, so maybe it should be Flip Nicholas.
Wasn't it like Tyr Sanok?
Farty Star.
No. What about AI43?
That's not a name, that's a designation.
Ooh, let's call it Danaher's Lament.
No.
Look, you're the last pilot. You don't get to name the planet, too.
Only one that could have theoretically seen all of it. I should have just fucking kicked you out the back of the dropship and circumnavigated that globe.
What if I had a ballad composed? I got somebody to compose a ballad called Danaher's Lament.
That's fine.
What about Red Planet?
No. That's Mars.
Green Sky.
Saturna Claus.
How about Cerulean?
Nerd. Oh.
What about something dramatic that reflects how Hope died there but was born again?
Like a new Hope?
You could say something
The
like
planet
that.
is just
The
named
planet
Apocalyptia.
Based on what Kyle just said, I'm going to go with Ceruleus.
I like that.
And that would make us Ceruleans.
Exactly.
Exifficans.
I'm writing that down.
Yay! We named the planet!
I assumed that the original, I assumed that the people who had been there for 80 years had a name picked.
Yeah.
This is, as
And this is
I know, I'm just
And
thinking
Ceruleus is what they picked.
Yep, it is. So, are there any other epilogue things? Because I want to divulge some information about these settlements that you guys didn't get.
Does Fisherman's Ridge get power? Do they prosper?
Essentially, once their regime is taken out of the picture, relations between the three settlements are allowed to heal. It's going to take a long time to occur, but yeah, it is something that will eventually happen.
Yay!
So your characters would have been instrumental in that. Any other epilogue questions.
Your
Tell
character
us your
sounds a bit
secrets.
too broad.
All right.
A random one. If I would have wandered into Scorpion and presented myself as Lieutenant Jackson Danaher of the crew, I assume I would have met a very, very unhappy populace.
It's hard to say. It all depends on how you acted toward them.
If you walked in and said, "I'm from the crew and am therefore now in charge,"
Yeah,
that would have
if you
ended
would try to throw your weight around to be the new hot shit there, yeah, they would not have responded well to that.
What if I would have thrown my weight around as a hotshot pilot?
I can
That is
fly
of no
things,
value
but
to
I
us.
have
We
no
don't
idea
have
what
things
I'm
that
doing.
fly.
I do think they probably also would have taken issue with that.
Oh, just curious.
All right, so some information that I used Jordan's random settlement generation to get some qualities for each of the settlements.
Nice.
For Purple Delta, they are in general exploitive of their populace. They have a corrupt oligarchy.
Oh, of course they do.
They actually were relatively scarce in ammo, but they were plentiful in energy. They had no food besides what they were bringing in from raids. Their fuel and water were both dwindling. For Fisherman's Ridge, their attitude was welcoming. They actually had a corrupt oligarchy kind of behind the scenes running the show. There was no... they were completely communistic. There was no property rights. Everything was communal. Drugs were banned. They had no ability to make ammo. They had no ability to make new fuel. They had a plethora of water. They had a surplus of food. Energy was pretty scarce for them. And Scorpion community was cautious of outsiders. They were a benevolent dictatorship.
Interesting.
The crazy guy on the radio, he was only allowed to do that because they were like the benevolent dictator believed everybody had the right to say what they wanted. And that guy had the capacity to transmit every insane thing that crossed his mind.
So we were right when we said Alex Jones.
Jargons,
Yes.
jargons.
Absolutely right. They had enough ammo. Their energy resources were dwindling. Their food, they had enough food, but their water and fuel was practically completely out.
I have a question. Was I right when I assumed Samantha and Lawrence were like a warmonger and more for peace? Like, what was the difference between the two, and what was the split?
The Marcus, the guy from Purple Delta, they just wanted to conquer. That's all that they wanted to do. They wanted to bring all the people back into the fold. They wanted to keep everybody under their heels. Samantha and Scorpion community, they're very libertarian.
But you said that the commander of the Scorpion community had two advisors, Samantha and Lawrence.
Yeah.
I was really curious about them.
They were actually the commander's children.
Okay. I mean, I don't like nepotism, but that's fine.
You just hate this whole planet.
I do nothing good.
But it was a
happened here.
benevolent dictatorship.
That's an oxymoron.
That's
What
what
is
you
that?
wanted to make.
Really?
No, I didn't!
Just because it hasn't ever actually worked in the real world doesn't mean that it's an oxymoron.
I wanted to burger peace and then not be in charge.
Was there capacity for this human settlement all cooperating after those purple Deltans were stamped out? Was there capacity for us to build any sort of transmitter or receiver to send the book and the movie back to Earth, in decades?
Purple Delta actually had a lot of... all of the gear that they brought down was pretty much still in Purple Delta. Some of it was degraded, but they had a lot of capacity for doing things. It's just that the government had such a stranglehold that they didn't let that get out. So that's why the emissaries that they sent, they were not used to doing manual labor. They weren't used to working for themselves. The oligarchy in charge still had all of the amenities that that a rich person from Earth would have.
Can I ask if Jessup was one of the original crew member?
All the original crew members had died by this point.
Okay, so who is Jessup? The true commander.
He was
Somebody's kid,
let's
probably.
see, I'm going through my notes. Jessup was for which one of them?
He was
Purple Delta.
the Purple Delta, known as the true commander.
Oh, he was just the next the successor. He was basically the premier of Purple Delta. He was the figurehead.
Would there have been anything salvageable on like the crashed Ark?
Oh yeah, what if we had tried to go there?
If you had tried to go there, there would have been salvageable stuff. And it would entirely have depended on your rolls as to whether or not you would have been able to get enough fuel to get back.
Tons of meat sickles.
Oh.
Crispy meat sickles.
Burnt on the outside, frozen on the inside. Just like a hot pot.
If I had locked myself in the cockpit and circumnavigated the globe, how awesome would I have been?
You wouldn't have been awesome at all. No one would have known.
You would have been the first person to ever do it.
Goddamn right.
But you wouldn't be recorded as such because no one would have known.
Yeah.
Also,
I would've
there
kept
were
camera boy
people
board
on the
and-
Ark that were going around for years before you
No, but that's in orbit. We're talking aircraft. We're talking circumnavigating with an aircraft. Old school Lindbergh style, baby.
Well, guys, what do you say we stop this bullshit? Because we've been talking for about 2 hours now. Let's stop this bullshit and start rolling some dice.
No, Jesus Christ, no.
Briefly, does anybody have any personal social media stuff that you want to pitch here? Catch me on Instagram at FoxCarrick and Twitter at... Fuck Twitter. Never mind. But Instagram's alright. Anybody else?
Catch me on Instagram, Bay the Fae.
Catch me on Twitch at Fiery Amethyst.
Thanks for listening.
Apocalyptia is on drive-thrurpg.com. Give me money.
Bye, y'all.
Roll them.
Thank you very much for listening. This has been a production of Alien Familiar Media. You can find past episodes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. This production is protected under a Creative Commons non-commercial attribution, no derivatives license. Music for this episode is Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale and can be found at freemusicarchive.org.